What's going on?
Are we recording?
We are not recording yet.
Hit the record button, buddy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the Contact Buzz special end of the world edition, coming at you live from a secret underground bunker because we bugged out when it got real. As always, I'm joined by two absolute legends. Guillermo from Acme Tea.
Hola.
And that noise that's over there, that's Chris with California Terpene Extracts.
Dabbing up on some of the diamonds.
Today we are going to be talking about some fun things. I don't know if anybody's heard, but we've been kind of in a bit of a quarantine, bit of a lockdown situation. We're actually here in California, and I think with this episode we're going to talk about when we get to actually stretch our legs a little bit, where we can go, some really cool cannabis destinations that are out there. We're also going to be talking about some differences between flowers, edibles, concentrates. Basically, how do you high, or how do you do dose, or basically how do you enjoy the wonderful cannabis plants? The differences that kind of go along with that, and that type of thing. If you've been curious about like dabbing or something like that, got some experts in the house, so we'll tell you all about it. And we're going to start today's episode with the topic: what do you need to grow weed when the world ends? So the zombies are attacking, whatever's going on, massive earthquakes, volcanoes exploding, pick your end of the world movie. You got to bug out, right? Everybody's heard of your Bob, your bug out bag. You got to have your food, your water. You got to have cordage, a container, combustion, fire. Like there's millions and millions of videos, but nobody talks about what you need in that bag so that when you settle back down, you can get the strains growing again, right? You can grab your stash. You can hit the road with your stash, right? Maybe you got an eighth lying around or something like that. That'll last you all of like a day in the stressful end of the world environment. But when you settle down, you're going to need to get you, and you can't call the guy. How are you going to grow it? Like, what do you need to take with you? What do you need to pack when the zombies come knocking and you got to start running? What's got to be in that bag?
You need 24 feminized clones and a bubbler system with a generator. And no.
All right, that bag's getting real big.
Sorry. You need seeds, man. You need seeds. You need unfeminized seeds, in my opinion.
Definitely unfeminized, because otherwise, as soon as you run out of feminized, unless you figure out a way to keep cloning, you're going to be stuck with nothing.
More than likely, you won't have an infrastructure to be cloning in the first place. You have to propagate using pollination.
No, you're going to bug out to some wilderness place somewhere.
I mean, you could run to a hydro store and steal as much as you can. I mean, that's the end of the world, right?
Yeah, everybody be at the gun shop.
Jimmy, back up the man. Yeah, but if you had to do it in a backpack, let's say, seeds is going to be the only way to do it, right? And you want unfeminized, but let's say you could carry a little bit more. So what, you got a bourbon or a Yukon XL Denali or something like that, 4x4 off-road package and tow package, so you can carry some stuff.
Sure.
All right. So, or you're like an overlander, you got your whole Jeep set up with like the kitchen and everything in the back. I'd say you probably want
Definitely some nutrients of some sort would be best.
See,
dude, are we in Antarctica, or are we like in a desert?
Well, everybody's got their own bug out plan, obviously. Like we've talked about this.
Is it just the bag?
It's just the bag.
A car.
Like, you don't get a car. You don't get to stop by the hydro store. I think the first question is like, okay, so
10 pounds of dirt.
First of all, you got to get your hands on some good seeds, and you got to do that now, right? Like we're not talking about the seeds that fall out of the bag, you know, the
Hey,
dirt.
those actually are good ones.
Sure, but they're not necessarily feminized, and you don't really know what you're going to get there. So you get your hand on some good seeds, but now how do you store those seeds for long life? You know what I mean? Like
temperature,
if you're gonna archive those seeds, right?
Are super important. So you don't want to exceed. I believe it's 80 degrees. 75 or less would be optimum, but if you get past I think it's 86 degrees, or maybe it's 96 degrees, I'm sorry, I can't remember at the moment, but something like that, where if you get them too hot, they'll die, they'll cook. Get them too cold, they freeze beyond the cell actually cracks because it's frozen. Say bye to those seeds. So you can go different ways with it.
Now, what would be
in terms of storage? I would say a vacuum sealed bag with some silica in it would be kind of cool.
You got to keep them dry.
The moisture out,
right?
Keep the moisture out. That would suck. Some humidity somehow got in there, and then they all germinated, and you come back and there's just like fungus mush. Yeah, dead root mush.
Now, I would personally go with a like a Girl Scout cookie, or a Jack Herrera, or a Green Crack. Those would be the strains I'd want to take with me, you know, into the world scenario. Those are the only 3 strains you can have. What about you? What would be your top 3 get out of town strains?
I'd maybe do a big sativa, like a super lemon haze. And then do like maybe a blue cheese, and then I don't know, like a pure sour diesel, or a pure, like, I would pick a cheese for sure.
Cheesy jerk. All right, I'm gonna redo one. Right, so I want the
Green Crack's good though.
Green Crack. I want the Green Crack, and I want an like a serious OG, or a cheese, or something along those lines, and then a 1-to-1.
Some platinum OG would be bomb.
I think I definitely want to get a 1-to-1, because you got to get the medicinal benefits.
Well, you could do that with breeding if you're going to be on your farm, right?
But how are you going to breed it if you don't have it to start with? If you don't have the stock?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You get a
down the pipeline.
You get a nice industrial hemp, high CBD or high CBG strain, right? And then you mix that with your high THC strain, and now you're going to come up with something.
Right, but unless you pack the industrial hemp into your get out of town bag.
You know, mine's got it. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. It's like 3,000.
How about you, Chris? What are your top strains?
I mean, I'm an all indica person, so like OG Kush. I mean, some purple haze or some purple Kush.
Some master maybe. Bubba. Yeah. Some Bubba.
Some old schools.
Pre-96 Bubba.
Some pre-96 Bubba.
Yeah, I mean, before it was all hybrid, like everything.
How many seeds?
Yeah, because then you start mixing them yourself again. That'd be kind of cool to have those building blocks too. I would say, how many seeds to mix with? It'd be kind of
how many of each strain to ensure that you've got enough to continue the species?
6, maybe 10 strains would be nice, but dude, just 3 or 4 would probably get you there.
But what, like a dozen of each seed?
Oh yeah,
at least.
Well, see, what's at least mean? 2 dozen of each seed?
Well, if you had a certain amount of loss, let's say a 20% loss, and then you had like, you know, a 60-40 or 50-50 split male female, you know, you got to cull the males, but you got to keep that one kick-ass one, you know, the Rico Suave of the bunch, and then you get the Rica Suave of the bunch, and you mix those 2 together, and you got it going on.
Now, the most important question: which do you think would be worth more in the end of the world scenario?
That's all.
Weed or bullets?
Oh shit!
Dude, go somewhere where you don't need the bullets. But you always need the bullets anyways if you're gonna hunt.
I gotta protect my crop.
That's right.
Right. You're gonna need it no matter what.
So I mean, those that thought ahead and planned ahead. You know what I mean? Like,
right. That's the people who know how to clean a gun, how to use a gun.
Forage weed somewhere. You stumble across somebody's warehouse or something.
Again, is another thing we talked about back in, earlier today. Well, we've talked about it many, many times. Is that so? A lot of people who are against guns or just don't either understand them or have never had the training in them, or are afraid of them. You got the hype and a lot of crazy stuff happening with people and shootings and all that stuff. So that doesn't help. But I've been around weapons since I was in scouting, so it's been a minute, and there's an enjoyment. And I'm not out shooting and hunting. I'm doing target practice. We're shooting tannerite and old TVs and stuff for fun, things of that nature. Neither one of us have taken down a deer, but
No.
it's, instead of a mass produced turkey, let's say, I was telling my kids I wanted to make it more of a spiritual thing with the animal, with the environment, and understanding, like even maybe saying a prayer once, everything has been done, because to be thankful for a being that lost its life to kick RJ in the face.
Knew it would happen.
But,
Locked and loaded.
Anyways, yeah, if you're gonna grow some apocalyptic, nice save.
Party foul.
Nice save. Apocalyptic scenario, then you're not going to be able to carry a hydroponic system or a deep water culture,
No,
aquaponics, and all your fish in your back cooler that you're keeping alive and aerated.
But see, I think nobody talks about it, but when you talk about the cannabis plant itself, when you're talking about rebuilding civilization, you know what I mean? Like hemp and the textile applications, the medicinal applications of the CBD,
it's a totally different strain you'd be growing though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if somebody that brought that with them, all the knowledge and everything else,
yeah,
you
that'd
wouldn't
be
have
badass.
to rediscover it.
That'd be badass. You definitely want that cordage in there, the fiber, the long, big, tall, long, closely grown, field scattered stuff. That definitely would be the way to go, because in that scenario, it's about commodities, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's about those guys like in the 1800s who had the stills. Those guys could make a product that they could trade for virtually anything. So alcohol became a commodity. And I think that when it comes down to apocalyptic scenarios, you need to have either a kick-ass skill that everybody needs your help on, or you better have a commodity that you can make for relatively cheap and that you can use as a barter system. Otherwise, man, oh man, you're gonna have some problems.
See, I'm gonna go with the commodity. I'll just grow some weed.
I think you need skills to do that though still.
And and it takes a whole season. What if some shit goes down? It all burns up.
Sure.
Yeah, you better have some backup plans like cheese and beer and wine.
Yeah.
Of course, you go back to that.
Gotta talk about the cheese.
Time for cheese moment.
Always cheese.
A minute
I
of
love
cheese.
cheese.
Before we get into the cheese, the quick reminder to everybody that's listening to this podcast right now, wherever you guys are, go ahead and especially if you liked our zombie conversation and just getting into the weeds on the things like we do here, smack the like button or the heart symbol or whatever positive reinforcement metric happens to be on the platform that you're listening to us on. Speaking of that, we also would really appreciate any shares, telling your friends about us if you kind of like what you're hearing here, stuff like that. That really helps us, kind of get this out there and in front of a bunch of people. We are officially, gentlemen, it's exciting, but we are officially on all of the big podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Podbean, TuneIn,
Ooh, that's
Blueberry,
nice.
Pandora, and Castbox.
We're famous now.
And before we started,
Sweet.
Guillermo made an offer, so I'm going to go ahead and offer that to all of our listeners. If you share this with your friends and smack the like button, Guillermo's going to personally show up at your house and paint your kitchen.
Oh yeah.
So get on that.
He's so full of shit. I can't go to your house, people. Sorry, we're on quarantine.
And if you leave a comment, Chris is going to stop by and smoke you out with some of that good California terps.
Yeah, once quarantine's over.
Yeah, once quarantine's over and we're able to freely move about the cabin.
Hey, so I want to add to what
Wait,
we were talking
one
about.
more thing.
Gosh, darn it.
Remember, you can, for all these episodes and podcasts and everything, find all the information, the stuff we talked about, serious stuff, not just zombie stuff, at www.acmeteas.com/the-compact-buzz. What were you saying, Guillermo?
I'm waiting for Zed to be quiet because I can't take the background.
It was Zed's turn to talk.
Damn, Zed. What I was going to say was, if we think about it a little bit more than just some seeds, right? I'd maybe bring a chicken with me or some fertilized eggs. That'd be kind of cool, huh? Go on Craigslist, pick up some fertilized eggs for about $4 or $5. Keep a dozen with them, a dozen
This
eggs
is in your bug out bag.
I'm saying if you had a truck or like thinking of it, my kids.
So we're
are with me,
bugging out,
right?
but Craigslist
I'm
is
bugging
still
out.
around.
I gotta
Well,
bug out with my dogs.
You do have
my
a window.
kids,
You have a window that you like for
and their
the
gear
quarantine. We knew
and
a couple days ahead of
survival
time
shit.
this was probably going to be
Oh, yeah.
happening.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless you're ground zero, like you get a little bit of a warning, and it's during those crucial moments where you have to think about things like which seeds am I going to pack and which chickens am I going to take. Apparently,
I thought a bug out
Yeah,
bag is
no.
already packed though, and you're
A
supposed
bug
to
out
go
bag is
grab it
packed.
and
It's only for
go.
3. It's like 2-3 days. It's got like light shelter, change of clothes, underwear, first aid kit, basic stuff.
Mine's in my truck already,
reflector,
actually.
flashlight, that kind of stuff. I always have it packed. It's always in the back of my car. Always extra water. It's a water hydration pack as well. So it's also got the frost protection. It's full military spec actually from Camelback. I'm pretty stoked about it. I love it because it's lightweight and easy.
what is it? Is it the 5 C's or the 7 C's that you're supposed to pack in a bob?
Right.
Right? It's now the 8 C's. Cannabis.
Hold on. I'm saying like you had a little time to prep. You thought about it for a minute and you found a little tiny piece of acreage, a little bit of farmland that you can call your own, or you bug out too. You go up to like Mendo or the Trinity County, wherever. You get in there and you get some soil to work with. You have some chickens that can produce eggs and can continue to propagate, and you can sell the meat as a commodity. I would get some goats, just a few, run them around. You got some dogs to protect your group of goats, but the goats are going to produce milk for cheese as another commodity. And then, of course, the goats can also be sold as a commodity themselves. But they would work better together harmoniously and propagate bigger and bigger and bigger. That's how I think you'd be able to survive it. Something long term. You'd need a water source above and beyond. You'd need to be able to find shelter that you can build. So if you found some land that had some wood on it, you can cut that down, build yourself some shelter. So those are the things you want to kind of think about: water, space, be able to propagate your own food over and over and over again. Of course, a big bag of seeds, it wouldn't just be, you couldn't just go with cannabis. There's no way you could survive.
You need food.
You need also the food to feed your animals. So you'd have to be growing some sort of grasses. You'd have to be growing, you need your composting. So the chickens are producing nitrogen to feed your plants that you're growing. So
It's like Farmville over here.
hey, we were talking about nutrients. How else are you going to produce the nutrients? Honestly, I mean, you need a nutrient factory. That's what your animals are for. The animals also do double work because they give you the eggs and the milk, right? But you keep them as homies and pets, and you love them up, and it's awesome.
Sure. Why don't we pack a little swine in that
And every
to
so
go
often,
back?
well, yeah, your garbage disposal, and then
Right.
you can hunt for.
See, I think you're thinking though, like that type of stuff is important, but I don't know if you necessarily like. Can you have that kind of level? I guess you could. You could have any level of preparedness, but is that realistic?
Remember, we were looking at that property across the street from you at the Slash X was It was $4,000 for 2.5 acres
Sure.
of land. So you could build a well. You can get a well. You could prep if you wanted to.
Sure.
Or
Well, they still got campsites and stuff up there. We've gone and seen those.
right. We've been looking at trailers and trucks and things of that nature. So there's a lot of ways to prep.
No, I mean the ruins
Propagating
of like the old camp towns and stuff like that were up there looking for gold.
Right.
Yeah, they made it. Hand dug a well and did what they had to do. Like even in that harsh environment.
I mean, you guys never watched those videos on YouTube where the dudes in like the forest go and build like pools and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
These guys are badass.
So people watch some YouTube videos, maybe get a little prepped.
That's a
Dude,
lot of time.
Lately, I've been into this one.
Hey, everybody's got
It's
time
just-
right now sitting at home. This is the perfect time for them
Yeah.
to watch some of the stuff, maybe learn some survival skills, and then if it really comes down to it, maybe they'll have to play it. But
Let me see if I can share.
try to learn some skills and actually like
Plug
practice
this.
before you do it.
What is it?
There's these women in Asia, and they live in these little huts and whatnot, and they cook from a fire pit sort of a thing where the wok is inset into the brickwork, and They have to bring wood and stoke the fire and keep it going. And I mean, dude, the ingredients these ladies are picking up from like out in the jungle, and they catch eels in the riverbed, and they have just these massive woks, and they chop it all up and they put it together and create these incredible dishes. I'm trying to find the channel. Oh my god, I can't remember it.
God, you lock him up. You lock him up for a week or two, and all of a sudden he's talking about eating eels and.
Nah, you know me. I can pretty. I don't like natto. That's what I don't like.
Should probably pack some kind of survival guide. Yeah, your bug out bag too
yeah,
if you don't know what you're doing.
Herbs and plants.
I
would
thought about that,
definitely
but
be-
then I just figured I'd hit up YouTube.
Did you know there's
But
so
again,
many
this is
edible
like
plants just
where are we
around?
at with this like apocalyptic style? Is it like where we're at quarantine right now, or is it like we actually are like screwed? There's no technology. Zombies have taken over.
This is the part where they're introing
yeah,
when they were like, they didn't fucking believe it. And then the next day, everything collapsed and fire, brimstone, everybody dies.
When you're at the point where you're using your bug out bag, it's gotten pretty bad.
That's what I mean. So
Fuck.
at least you think. I mean, some of the more paranoid people are probably already bugging out, but I'm
Crickets
just
again.
saying though, like
that was not Guillermo and I when this first started at all. We just wanted to go camping.
is that what it was?
I thought, hey, you know what? A couple weeks of camping, do we look like idiots? Or like, hey, there's internet where we're going. We can still operate remotely. Everybody's operating. They don't know where the hell I'm at anyways. Nobody knows where I'm at. Virtually, I could have a picture behind me that shows this luxury apartment, and
well, everything's
Just
gone
green
to Zoom
screen it,
meetings now.
CGI.
right.
So
As far as if you're able to do your job successfully, efficiently, and you're helping others in your company, I think it should be commended that you can do that in an environment that's not at an office. You got to get up, comb your hair, get dressed, get your shit together every day like you're going to the office. So it's not like just sitting on your ass. I like working remotely as well.
You want to
As
talk?
a lot of people, I think, but I think a lot of people are also not used to it, so they kind of freak out. But I could work remotely from our stash spot.
Sure.
Go up to the farm. We've set up a whole Wi-Fi system there from like 1.5 miles to what was it, 3 miles away?
Not quite that far. In fact, we
2.6
actually
miles,
need
fine.
another repeater to actually get out there where the tractor runs.
Yeah. Did you saw
There's
it, right?
a dead spot back in the field where you can't quite get on Facebook, when you're mid-field plowing.
Or you're trying to play music and then you get through that zone, the dead zone. Anyways, but I think prepping.
Hashtag first world farming problems.
People think it's like you said, Chris. It's like, are people? What are they going to do? Unless you've been thinking about this for a minute, you're not even thinking about having a farm. You're not even thinking about livestock or what you would do. Dude, I had ducks when I was a little kid. My mom got us some ducks one time, and then a cat ate them, so that was sad. But we had
circle of life.
right. But my experience increased. We got chickens, and chickens are great. They'll let you pet them and hug them and everything.
I think I have
And
something for that. It's a little late, but
they live a long time. Those beans you were eating earlier, RJ? Anyways,
don't rain on my soundboard.
So if you're not thinking of prepping, then it doesn't just happen overnight. Like, I'm gonna watch a bunch of YouTube videos and buy a bunch of shit online, and I'm a prepper now. Like,
That's kind of how it works for me.
No. I think real preppers are the ones that have read books on skills and know how to do things like
it's not even
start a
just
fire
reading. You
and
gotta actually
practice.
apply them.
Right,
yeah.
you've done it and you've been doing it for a minute. You know how it really goes in the wilderness when there's no hospitals or 7-Elevens or hardware stores or any of that
How
shit.
about when there's no floor beneath you?
Right,
Let's
right.
just start there. You gotta go to sleep. You're tired. Guess what?
We've seen guys
You're
go
in
out
the
in the field
dirt.
with like street shoes, Vans, thinking, "Oh, we're good. I'm good." Like, dude, we need you need waterproof boots up to your ankle at least, in a full sock.
Speaking of that, he knows who he is. He's listening. What's up, bro? Get your boots out. We're about ready to go back up to the farm again.
Well, so some people, don't have the experience to know, hey, this is what works for me, because I've been out there for years and I know I need the foot protection. So I like a hard cap. I like a steel shank. I like, the boot to be very rigid, waterproof for sure. I mean, like tanks, you spend $400 or $300 on a boot, a mountaineering boot. Right?
See, I can't.
That boot,
About $100.
I guarantee you, will last you 3 times longer, or maybe even longer than that, 4 times longer than the $100 boot.
Maybe, but there's
Guaranteed.
also the foot to consider. Like I can't do the boot thing. Like even up at the farm, like I did the boot thing for a while, but it was killing me. Like I just need to do tennis shoes, unless it's like a water
Man up,
situation.
RJ. Man up.
You tell that to my plantar fasciitis. No, I mean, Chris, we've seen the guys too on the events and stuff like that. Like there's dudes that run around in those fucking Doc Martin style steel toe,
I have Doc
gargantuan-
Steels. Those are good.
Yeah, and then there's dudes that just walking around in fucking tennis shoes.
Hey, I wore like the cheap Walmart steel toes, and nobody ever thought were steel toes half the time, though. So
But you wore steel toe. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like,
because
you
I
know from
almost ran over my
experience.
foot enough times that I wasn't gonna do it.
Exactly. So
I got lucky; I never actually smashed my foot, but
I've seen people, dude, drop heavy shit on their foot, and it wasn't good. It wasn't
yeah.
pretty. On Vans or some Converse is always bad. It
And
always
on
ends
that
up
note,
bad. CBD helps with.
yeah, once you have inflammation, CBD relieves
There
that
you go.
pain.
We were just trying to circle back to the CBD part of it.
No, about the bug out
just
bag
need to
though. Seeds. What else?
sure
do we
this up
need?
a little bit.
You need water filtration. You need some sort of snare or some sort of like fabrics, twine or rope, as well. You need shelter. You need to be, I think, paracord's always nice because you can,
Paracord, definitely. It's cheap and you
Right.
can carry quite a bit of it.
right.
It's light.
So some type of a fabric, I guess fabric is too vague. You know what I mean? Cordage.
We've
You need
gotten
some cordage.
so far off into the weeds. I just wanted to hear which seeds you guys really were going to pack into the bag. Was kind of my whole reason for asking.
Oh, I
that,
thought you wanted to also know how you'd
Oh,
make it to planting those seeds.
we're apparently
so
actually
that you
like
actually
giving
survive.
prepper pointers over here.
I thought that was the whole point too.
Not for the whole episode.
Way to go, RJ.
That's all right. Act like it never happened, and we'll just keep going.
Fine, I'm going to shamelessly plug the company real quick. By the way, so if you've been feeling a little like feverish lately, or you've been stuck with a wet or dry cough, maybe you're feeling a little achy,
Yikes!
runny nose, what?
I mean, you should already be staying home, but stay the fuck home.
Well, I was going to say, what you might want to try is our Vedic Healer tea. It's excellent for clearing up the sinuses. It has some clove and licorice in it that really helps soothe the throat.
It's full of
And,
cinnamon, ashwagandha root. I said that right?
Right, and you add a nice carrier
Some
fat,
clove.
like some creamer, and you're good to go.
Actually,
Do that 3 times a day for a week, and you definitely will feel better.
This comes directly from one of our taste buds. I quote, "That shit is fucking incredible," unquote.
And it's just plants,
Yeah,
bits and pieces of plants, the way nature intended it to be.
all natural.
Thousands of years.
What's the name of that company again?
Acme Tea Company.
God, if only there was some place online where you could go visit that company.
Acme-tea.com.
So cool. All right. And California terpene extracts, CalTerps on Instagram, right?
It's California turp.
California terps on Instagram. Deliciousness in a jar.
Seriously, man. It's so clean, crisp. It's like drinking a like a White Claw, except you're
do
inhaling
not.
a White Claw.
Do not, please, do not.
Bruh, there ain't no laws when you
I
drinking
apologize.
Claw.
Oh
Let me
my
take that
god!
back.
Do
Let me
not
take that back.
ever compare my shit to White Claw. That
How about
is
Squirt?
Not okay.
Squirt, maybe. You know what I mean? When you just
It's
crack
like when
it
you
open,
when you
and
crack
you
a fresh
smell
Coors Light.
that
Oh,
initial
fuck.
grapefruit intense grapefruity smell, and then you drink it, and it's just like
walking it back.
it's
I
so
All
just
right,
got a
it's
little
almost
bit
there.
insulted by this whole
That's sad.
conversation.
That's
now.
really sad.
All right,
I apologize.
The only way, what I think the lesson here is that there just aren't the right words to describe the delicious flavor of California terpene extracts. Look at California
Clean,
terpenes.
crisp, super.
Instagram.
It smells awesome. Really tasty as well.
Some of the purest stuff you can get. Not to toot my own horn.
Yeah, it once it melted into the bowl there, it was like there was no residue at all. It was just nice and clean.
So stop on by and give them a follow. Stop on by, buy some tea.
Actually,
Podcasts are expensive, guys. Help support the show.
it's a perfect little
Please.
transition though into the different kinds of ways that you can get high. Like, you know, you're saying you can dab like we just did with this dab rig that has, you know, you heat it to the right temperature, let it cool down, and then go ahead and take the perfect hit. Or
And
you-
that's your regular modo apparatus, right? That's the way you roll.
yeah, for the most part, it's just all the dab rig, or like some people like to do like the peak or whatever, which is a little electronic one, which is pretty cool for the on the go. It's a lot more convenient for like the quickness versus this thing you have to use the torch and heat up.
Are you pre-packing that one?
Yeah, you pre-pack it, and then it's like, since it's all electronic, you kind of click the button and it vibrates for you, and then as soon as it vibrates again, it lets you know that it's ready, and you can hit it, and then it tells you when it's like stopped heating, and so it's kind of got like this whole little cycle thing.
Nice.
So I've been waiting for this topic to come up because I got questions.
Yeah.
I got so many questions. So I'm a flower guy since day one. Always loved me some nice, sticky, delicious, beautiful bud. And I've always stayed away from the concentrates. Vape pens, like I've done the vape pens, you know, polite company, whatever. You can't always.
That's
walk
not
around
true, dude.
smelling
You
like
smoked hash. You smoked keef.
I
instead
have
of concentrate.
smoked it, but I've stayed away from making it a regular thing, and specifically because I wasn't sure about it. You know what I mean? Like, and so I kind of want to explore the differences a little bit. Like, for example, right out of the gate, everybody knows. Well, not everybody, maybe, but anybody that's tried it knows that there is a complete difference between smoking and an edible. A totally different.
You're talking about experience.
Experience, yeah, totally different experience in the way that your body metabolizes from both of those different methods. And there is a bit of a difference between smoking and going into dabs or diamonds or any sort of like concentrate like that. And I've never known enough about it, so. Like, you know, I know percentages and potency when it comes to bud, but like, how does that equate over to like a dab or a diamond or something like that? Like, what's really in that little jar? You know what I mean? And I think we've got the expert in the house here. He can shed some
What's in
light.
the jar, dude?
What's in the
He
jar?
can
What's
clear
in
the
box?
haze. He
What's
can
in the
clear the
box?
haze.
What's in the bag?
I mean,
That's sad.
I mean, it really does have to do with how the body metabolizes it and how much your body can, what they call bioavailability. So, like, how well the body can actually metabolize what you're giving it. So, when you smoke flower, you have several different cannabinoids and other things like terpenes, flavonoids, whatever else. So, it's like you have that.
Well, you got this whole plant. You got the plant
exactly.
matter and everything
Some
that's there.
fats in there.
Exactly. You have all that together.
Enzymes.
That you're now breaking down. A lot of it's being decarboxylated. And so, like, your bioavailability when you smoke flower is a lot of times lower versus when you do a concentrate, because now you concentrated it down to just, you know, the cannabinoids and terpenes.
So, aside from stripping out the physical plant matter, as it were, and the stuff that's involved with that, the potency obviously condenses down as well, right? So if I have, like, for example, a bowl or a joint or something, or about a gram of bud, you know what I mean? How does that equate to, like, when you're talking about like a concentrate, like a dab? Like
A gram of dab. Can you imagine?
well, I've seen that.
I mean-
there is a YouTube video, so
Well,
it does
yeah,
like
that would
a
just-
10-gram
I
dab
have,
or
like,
some
I have
ridiculous
videos
thing.
on here of me
Yeah.
doing like half-gram dabs, but a lot of that, like when they do like like above and beyond, like you still have what's essentially called like the saturation dose.
is it
So there's
necessary?
like you have so many receptors in your body that they can actually bind to and be effective. So eventually you hit that like max dose. That's your like full saturation. You know, it's like oversaturated, and so you actually have more chemicals floating around in your brain than what you can even uptake. So it's like kind of a waste.
It's a waste.
Yeah, at that point it's
So
a
it's
waste.
like the mall at Christmas time. There's more cars in the parking lot than there are parking spots, and so they just kind of spin around and keep going and circling, and then eventually like leave.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to put it. But the thing is though, like because like when you do that, then your body ends up uptaking it in somewhere else. So it's actually not a bad thing always, because sometimes it's good to have a high bioavailability of that chemical. Because then you like say if you have like a spot, it'll essentially accumulate somewhere else in your body, which isn't always a bad thing.
So they're waiting in the parking lot for a parking space, basically, until someone leaves, and then they're like,
They either could take that space though, or they could go park down the street and still walk to the mall.
So, but doesn't that affect something like your tolerance level?
It does, very much so. So like your tolerance goes up quite a bit, but that's where it's like we were explaining earlier. I mean, for like me specifically, and if I talk to a lot of people who are like heavy smokers, we all kind of agree that when you smoke just flower or just dabs, and you do it too much of just one, the highs eventually still like your tolerance goes up. But then when you smoke the other one, it like gives you a different high. So like a lot of people who just like get on like one or the other, there is that level of like certain like there's a certain point for them that they're like
plateau.
well, exactly, they plateau and then they're like, okay, now I need to switch over. So I always like to kind of balance out the flower versus like how much,
Sure.
because it does give you a different high in the long run, because you're getting different levels of
So
other
it's
things.
I think
the
the other-
variety.
Well, not only that, but it's like, think about it. What you're burning in the flower, you're getting a lot more chemicals there.
It's combustion versus like vaporization,
Right.
too.
So that's where you
No,
when it's isolated, you're getting a limited bandwidth, right? But when you burn flower, you get all the extra. No, you can't raise your hand.
I have another question.
No.
Teacher.
another question.
No.
What about, because you said combustion there, and I had heard this before, and I'd like to get some clarification on this as well, because somebody had said that dabbing was safer. And somebody else had said, yes, but that dabbing can be just as harmful as smoking buds.
Mm-hmm.
Because it depends on how hot the dab is. So you have to do like low temperature dabs. If you do a high temperature dab, it still produces the carcinogens, which the downside to smoking bud is, even though it's not like smoking a cigarette in the same way of getting all that bullshit and the chemicals and everything like there's still the carcinogenic factor of actually striking a lighter to something and burning it.
Yes.
The same way as like if you're barbecuing and you get the singe on the outside, that's technically carcinogenic as well.
Yes.
Right.
Actually, so the whole thing is like what you're saying so much with meat. It's called the Maillard effect. It's the browning of meat. That's technically a carcinogenic, effect in itself. But when it comes to like combustion versus vaporization, it's like what you're trying to say. So like if you notice, like I heat up the glass, right? And then I let it cool down. So if I heat up the glass till it's like red hot and then I just take the hit, which like we used to do that like back in the day, a lot of people didn't understand like you said, the cold.
900 degrees.
Yeah, we just like torch it and then hit it and like it's hot. You get all the smoke, but that's the thing is you're also converting a lot of those chemicals. You burn the terpenes, you burn a lot of things, and now you're converting a lot of stuff to
Into
other
bad
chemicals that
stuff.
are now not so much beneficials. Now you're actually like that's what you're saying, you're burning it. So that's what you're also inhaling at like a hot temperature. When you combust something though, it's like completely igniting it and it's like it's not vaporizing it. So that's why when we do the low temp, what you said it was so smooth is because and it turns into that like golden look from like, ours is white to start and then it turns into the golden like oil.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's because we're vaporizing it. Like we're trying to keep that low temp. And again, we're just
Meaning you're just taking it to the point where it turns from a solid to a vapor.
exactly. And so you're vaporizing it. You're not combusting it. You're not burning it. So the thing is, if we took this and it's hot enough and I actually touch it to it, it could catch on fire even. That's the combustion point. That means it's too hot.
Well, it's like a flash point with oil, right?
Yes.
So you get if you're doing like a deep fried chicken or something like that in the kitchen, you get your oil too hot. Or if you're actually doing like a deep fried turkey and you don't have a thermometer in the oil and
You drop it
chicken's
in
too
there.
So that's
hot.
just it. So like now, if you don't have, let's say you're sitting at home and you're going, hey, well, I really wanted to try dabs. I've heard about dabs. Dabs seem interesting to me. It's in the spectrum of cannabinoids and cannabis intake and all that sort of good stuff. I just
Well,
want
they've
to
definitely
expand my
got the market
horizons,
share
right?
now. Like they've got shelf space.
It's
down
much
there at
more
the
readily
dispensary.
available, much more commercialized than it used to be. I mean, in the early 2000s, dabbing didn't exist. That was like your hardcore, people who were fucking getting pipes.
That was all hash back then.
Yeah,
That was your concentrate.
right. I actually got a pipe we made a pie. No. Somebody gave me a tip, and it had like a bicycle valve, Schrader valve at the end of it, or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it was welded to the end of a copper cap, which went to a copper pipe, and you would stuff the pipe with the plant matter. Then you would cap it, and then that had a hole in it where you would inject 5-time distilled butane.
Yeah,
And
essentially that was like the original blasting.
right, and you'd run it through, and then you'd boil it off with boiling water and all that good stuff.
Double boil it in the Pyrex dish and
Right,
whip it up. And
right.
yeah, that's the old school methods that we used to do.
Right. And so, and that was years ago, and that's, I think, what started the dab craze, right?
did.
Just getting it cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. I, looking back on that, can you imagine what we were?
I can tell you right
volatile.
now, like the stuff we used to smoke and the ways we used to smoke it, it was so much worse. And like,
Right.
I think it's hilarious because like one of the big jokes that like kind of is in the cannabis community is like, oh, these kids are dying off these like vape pens and stuff, and it's sad because yes, there are adding additives like vitamin E acetate that are like clogging up kids' lungs and killing them, and there's a bunch of pesticides and stuff in these. But like real talk, what we used to smoke when like some of the extracts, like dude, we didn't know this stuff, so we like definitely were
Right.
smoking pesticides. We were blasting it and it still had butane in it.
Right.
Like
Well, I wasn't
was
using a lot
black.
of chemicals though. I every time I was growing as naturally as possible. There were these dates too. Like you could stop spraying a pesticide, 60 days in advance or 90 days in advance, and you'd be clear. It wouldn't be present in the plant. But yeah, there wasn't testing and all that other good stuff. So it was really on your knowledge of organic growing and your, I guess, attentiveness to the consumer and their safety and just your business
The mass
morality,
market
right?
though wasn't doing that.
Mass market was not doing that. No.
That's the whole
And
thing is you got to realize like I had
unscrupulous
plenty of
people
friends
didn't
who
give a
even
shit.
I've had plenty of friends even who were growing, and yes, they were still using plenty of stuff now that like are completely banned. Like,
Yeah.
and the thing is, they were growing on such a mass scale. It's like, whoa, it's like either lose your crop or fucking we're trying to save money. So that's
Right.
where again, luckily for us, the way we do everything, even if there's like shit inside of the like, that's why our extracts are filtered like down to 1 micron, because even if there is stuff in it, it can remove it. Like they just actually did a test. Colorado finally started legalizing, or not legalizing, but enforcing heavy metal testing, which California did
Yeah.
that right off the bat. Colorado did not do that for a long time. So they just finally started enforcing that. And through our filtration like systems, we can remove like heavy metals like lead, and stuff like that. So there's ways now that we filter out a lot of the stuff, even if it's not grown properly, you can still remediate it and remove that stuff now. And oils. And that's really like some of the stuff that we never had before. So
And I think that what you're doing right now is it's awesome. I mean, what we're seeing in terms of the quality here is fucking incredible, dude. Seriously, it's awesome. It's really, really awesome. And that's what I'm saying about the spectrum that we were talking about. That it's so beautiful that we have this spectrum because everybody's potion is different. Everybody's reaction to terpenes and the profiles and the entourage effect, I think, is different. And once you find that musical harmony or that food combination or whatever it is, the group of friends that you have, it's the same thing. You start to enjoy those things more and more and more, right? And you find your favorites. And I think that it goes hand in hand with cannabis or with alcohol, wines, you name it, right?
So getting back onto the dab thing, if somebody wants to try dabbing, because it does sound like if edibles isn't really your thing, you know what I mean, dabs are kind of the direction to go. That's a little bit cleaner, a little bit healthier, even if you do it smart. But where does somebody start? What do they look for the next time they head down to that shop? You know what I mean? Like if I'm a
What are you gonna
pretty
need?
decent like a 20% plus hybrid smoker generally.
It's a whole kit. You got to have a
yeah,
whole
see,
kit.
that's the thing is you don't just like kind of roll into dabbing just like that conveniently, because no matter what, you need something to smoke out of. So one of the big things to smoke out of, like I said, was either you get a dab rig or you can get like the big convenient thing is like when, like I said, the Peak or something like that, because then it's a kit. They're about $300. They're all electronic. It comes with like your little dab tool. It comes with like, some Q-tips and stuff to clean it. And then it kind of gives you the instructions, and that's it. Like, you don't need a torch or anything special, like, like we do with the rigs and stuff. You just literally like,
It's a crazy looking torch, by the way.
yeah, I know. You just, click the button and it heats up for you. It's all ceramic, like, coil inside of this like bowl, and it's just like it heats up and does everything for you. And then as long as you keep it clean, they work pretty well.
Sure.
So for like $300, you can pick up like a Peak or, some other kind of electric rig.
Sure. That thing you got there, though, I mean, they sell those down at the head shops.
Yeah,
it's
this
just
thing,
basically
I
a little
literally
bubbler
picked
with a
this up for
special
20
dab bowl.
or $30.
Yeah.
So it's like 30
Pretty
bucks
good
for
deal.
this. I think I got this torch for free, but then I'm like $30 for like a torch. And
And the steps, let's go over the steps. Basically, it's heat up the element, right?
Yeah.
And you want to heat it, and depending on the torch intensity, it's only for you start to figure it out, but it's a few seconds.
it's
right?
definitely okay. So
10 seconds.
no, see, the thing is, this is definitely like a you kind of gotta like
Figure it out.
you gotta figure it out.
And
'cause
each torch is different intensity, right? So
each torch
that
is different.
time-
Each like, because this is called a thermal banger.
Well,
This is different than like some of them. There's so much like different like.
But as far as
varieties of
technique
that.
goes, like I saw that what you were doing was you would actually heat up higher, and
Yeah.
then you were waiting. But I saw you kept like measuring it with your hand. You kept putting your hand over the top of it, so you'd torch the bottom of it till it was like glowing almost a little bit.
Yeah.
And then like you'd stop.
So yeah, I heat it up. Actually, I clean it first. So like that was what I
you
always
clean
do.
it every time.
Yeah,
That's
every
a good
time I
practice.
clean it, because like the thing is, like I said, if I heated it right now, because there's still some leftover terpenes on it. If I heated it right now,
It'll smoke a little
it
bit.
wouldn't just smoke. Actually, if I heated it enough, it would ignite, and then it would soot up the whole bowl, and like the whole like banger would become all black. And like that's the thing, I hate that. Like I always try
Banger is the
term, yeah.
the bowl.
Yeah, so it's like it's called this one's called a thermal banger specifically, but like that's why like you clean it every time, use Q-tips or whatever else. Some people actually use alcohol like and then clean it like every time. Like they'll dip the Q-tip in alcohol and like rub it around, because that does like dissolve the oils and stuff and gets rid of everything.
So it evaporates.
But
Right.
so yeah, they just like heat it up. Essentially, I always heat it up a little higher. They actually have this like, it's called a dab timer, but you can have a timer of how long you heat it and then how long it cools.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way you get the right temperature. And so the whole low temp thing is like you don't want to burn the terpenes.
Well, the other option, what is the bowl called?
There are thermometers as well.
Called
Yes,
the hammer.
Uh.
The bowl. What's the bowl called?
Thermal banger.
Thermal banger.
Yeah.
They
And
have
then-
electric versions though that you can plug in.
Yeah,
and
they have, like-
it'll
they have the
maintain
cords-
a certain temperature.
They have the nails. And actually they just came out recent with like a mini nail that I want to look into. But yeah, they have nails that you can get. And then most of those are like titanium ones, but they do have some that are now quartz as well. So but yeah, those you can actually control the temperatures and set them to like a specific temperature. My big thing is most of the time I always feel like nobody ever cleans those properly. They always like gunk up and then just turn like black and goopy.
There's got to be like a glass shield or something in place that's the surface that can be
Yeah.
cleaned and maintained.
That's what I mean. I don't know. I just feel like every time it doesn't taste the same.
It doesn't taste the same.
I actually have a lot of friends too who kind of trip out because I'm like one of the few people who like messes with it enough that I always get the temperature pretty well on.
That's
that
good.
It tastes as best as possible, and you still get it like the full hit. Versus like some of my friends who've dabbed for years, like they still can't figure like it out, or they just rush it and just hit it like when it's hot or like whatever else.
And there's also, it's a bong. Your piece is a bong, so you're getting that extra liquid filtration.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, most dab rigs you have water. Even like the Peak itself has like you put water in it.
Mm-hmm.
So like even those electric ones, they do water filtration because it definitely cools it too.
Right.
And that's like one thing you don't want. Again, it's just all about low temp. Like that's the keep the
Super
like
hot
flavor.
vapor.
And
Yeah.
kind of what I notice is, I mean, there's definitely a potency difference between the two of them. Like that kind of it hit like the end of a 2-week tolerance break. You know what I mean?
For the you're right. And you know what? For me, I think it comes down to convenience. I think of myself, if I get to just have one solid drag, one hit, and that got it done for me, that would be optimum. So with dabs, one tiny hit, one little crumble or one little scoop out of my tool is enough to get me done. And not done like I need to go lay down and go to sleep. But like, let's say I have some sativa, for example, or just high THC. Um, we'll be up for hours just planning stuff or writing things down or working on some new projects or filling inventory. Just you get focused. And it's a happy, clean focus versus like a methamphetamine type of a focus, right? A manic, crazy, uncomfortable, agitated.
Well, and that's a great segue. Speaking of one and done, what about edibles? So that's a totally different
So
high
edibles,
altogether.
a
I
funny story
actually-
about edibles. Go ahead.
I actually don't get high off edibles at all.
Really?
I don't know if it's like the way my body metabolizes it. I don't know if it's my
Guillermo needs to make you
tolerance.
some brownies.
That's what everybody always
Oh,
says.
man.
I think the big thing for me is I love edibles for the taste of them versus anything else. But I've eaten like 1,000 milligram chocolate bars. I've eaten like
Yikes.
800 milligrams sitting
Holy crap.
in one sitting of gummies. I've really tried to like make myself
And nothing,
high.
really?
Nothing.
Wow.
The only time I think I ever really remember getting high off any kind of edibles was like way back in the day. We took like a half ounce of flour and just straight ground it up, decarbed it, and threw it straight into brownie mix. Like it was like powder, and we like threw it into the brownie mix.
Yeah.
And baked it, and that was the only time I think any of us ever like. I could actually remember like getting high off.
Mm.
It was because like there was a good amount stuffed into like a really small like tray of brownies.
Nice.
It's still like that's.
That was the problem for me in my experimentations with getting baked goods to the market. So I went with the mindset like I really wanted it to be strong and good, and by good I meant strong to me, because I felt like a lot of people would be let down if it was like I ate a brownie, and I didn't want it to be just one bite because I think that's kind of stupid. I can only eat one, or I have to take a brownie and then cut that into 4 pieces, and that's a dose, one corner of it, and here's another dose. No, I wanted to eat a whole brownie, a nice, big, tasty, juicy brownie. Chocolatey goodness just dripping all over your fingers, right? And so I took, I believe it was 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of pure flour with like 4 sticks of butter, which condensed down to 2 sticks of butter. So, and just slow cooked it for like 1.5 hours, 2 hours, just constantly stirring it, never letting it boil. And it was what I had read in some books. And then I cooked the brownies with the butter, did that whole deal. It turned out that the brownies were so strong that people were eating them and like barfing. People were eating them and getting like spun out and paranoid and freaking out for like a whole day. People were eating them and just like losing their fucking mind. And I was like, felt horrible because
Anytime you've ever heard that story of why somebody doesn't smoke, there is like, oh no, I can't do weed, man. I had this brownie once.
I felt
Now you
horrible.
know who
I
made that
felt-
brownie. It's
So-
this guy.
Hey man, I had a few people freak out on those brownies too.
Yeah,
It
and
just
it's a
happens,
ride
and,
you
like-
cannot get off of for a while, and you don't want to be in that
No, you're in
position.
it
Let
to
me
win
just
it
tell you.
at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you just got to go with the ride and don't fight it.
There is no shortcuts.
I have a friend who she used to out dab me all the time.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like she was like honestly like a total dabber. She got sick for a few days, like didn't smoke for a few days, of course, and then so she ended up going to Disneyland. Was at Disneyland because she hadn't been smoking. She decided to eat 1,000 milligram edible, and
Not a
she
good idea.
freaked out.
Not a
She's
good
like, I
idea.
ran out of Disneyland crying
Jeez.
because she was having such a bad panic attack. So,
You
even
think
for
everybody's
tolerance,
watching you
like,
and talking
well,
about you?
yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I've had some really, really strong edible reactions. Like some of those brownies Guillermo made me. Whoo, those are nice. But I've never gotten to
I
that.
had to step it down.
No,
remember?
the only thing that ever got me to the paranoid point was a gas mask. And the only thing I can think of is because like it must have come in through my pores because it was all over the face and everything like that. It was at a party, don't ask. But that night, and it was just weed, it was just flour, you know what I mean? That night, paranoia, like panicky paranoia.
Probably had some crazy pesticides.
Probably it's something.
That's actually something I was gonna say too. With some of the dabs that we used to have, the one of the times I think I can remember having like kind of a paranoid attack, like
Dude, I
panic
swore
attack
somebody
going
was gonna
on.
break into my apartment.
It was just some like dirty wax and like that I smoked, and like this again, like before we really understood what it really was. This was years and years ago.
Yeah.
I took a dab one time though, and it was a really, really fat dab, and I think it was just because all the other shit that was
YouTube
in
worthy.
it. I actually do have some YouTube worthy ones, but like no, like it was just because of how like gross that dab was. I think was what made me feel so paranoid. But
Mm.
that's like one of the times I could definitely remember
I
that.
think paranoia is a clear sign of overdose for sure. Just too much. I think that's a lot of times
Essentially,
people.
that's one of the.
Mm.
It's just an overdose, and that's the beautiful thing about cannabis. You're not going to die if you overdose. You
You
might
just gotta
freak out a
You
little
might
bit.
think you're going to.
Yeah.
but you're
Yeah,
not going
you
to.
won't die. Don't worry about it. But it could freak you out, and that's kind of that
So
we're not trying to make light of it. In
I'm
the end, hold on, I just want to make this point. Is in
hey,
the end, I had to
uh,
lower my
it,
concentration on the brownies to actually have a brownie that was satisfying. It was functional. It worked, and it was worth the money because people were spending at the time $15 for a brownie. You know, and they how many times did you eat an edible and you just didn't feel it? You kind of feel like, fuck, this I just wasted my money.
Every
Yeah.
So
time.
there
yeah.
was finding that balance, and I think the best one was a lemon cake that I made. Lemon cake with the drizzled
I
dressing
never
that
got
was meant.
the lemon cake.
It,
That
it
sounds good.
was immediately devoured, and it was someone's birthday cake, and unfortunately, it literally lasted like 5 minutes on the table. But I heard good things from that. It was about an 1 inch, an inch and a quarter piece was effective, and
Air
the
quote effective.
and the high was
Depending on the
it was
person.
estimated to last between 4 to 6 hours, depending on your sensitivity. It could be a little bit longer, and it wasn't one of those overbearing type of feelings. It was a nice, smooth, even. And it dropped off. The high kind of dropped off gradually. It wasn't like this big drop off like a cliff, and it wasn't this huge like fly up to the heavens real quick. It was just a nice even keeled high. So
So why is it that the edible high is so different from the smoked high?
because
The
it's in
way
your
again,
gut, how it's ingested.
it has to do with exactly that. The fact that it's just metabolized so much different
Right,
that way. Because when
metabolized.
your lungs,
Get nerdy on me here.
so when your lungs, like your lungs have enzymes in them that are a lot quicker reacting than.
That's why the onset is faster.
Yes.
It's
So that's
within-
why,
within
like when you
moments.
inhale it, it could be like minutes
It enters the
to.
bloodstream faster, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because of the way that, like, I mean, for us to inhale oxygen and then to able to metabolize it using like enzymes into CO2, it's like that is actually the most like quickest reaction that they know ever.
Sure.
And so like that rapid enzyme, it also is the same thing with like how we metabolize a lot of other things. Like our lungs are constantly like filtering stuff out versus our stomach. It takes time for our stomach acids to break it down. Then it has to metabolize that and bring it into the bloodstream, and then it has to go through the liver, and like so it's like a lot of.
So all of that alters the chemical before it reaches the brain, or
Maybe more is absorbed.
Yeah, exactly. It's the bioavailability. It's the like how much is absorbed over time versus like before it starts like interacting. Because like your lungs are like being able to absorb a lot of it really quickly and then
Sure.
process a lot of it really quickly and then goes through your liver faster. And so it's like it's not like actually like absorbed and then like
so.
But imagine a football
metabolism
field
has
in
to
it.
do with
So
how it
it's
goes
a
throughout your body.
smaller. So if you took a puff, right? Let's say there was, just for a number, 1,000,000 particles of THC chemical in that puff. Your lung surface
Cannabinoids?
area, the cannabinoids, your lung surface area is only so big, so much surface area within your lungs. So most of that cannabinoids ends up on the exhale, leaving the body, and only what's actually made contact with your lungs, I'd imagine, right? And so what I'm understanding is that when I eat it, I'm capturing 100% of the cannabinoids. It takes longer for them to be digested and into the bloodstream and into the different parts of the bodies. But that's why not only that it takes longer to set on, but the onset of it feels so intense versus just taking a drag.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I think that's when you add to it now, when the common format for people out in wanting to try edibles, they're looking at milligrams, right? How powerful, how many milligrams is in whatever you're going to eat, and then they're going, well, how the hell do I know how many milligrams is for me? because you were talking about 1,000 milligram, whatever it was, for a regular person. Let me just tell you, people,
That's way too
don't
much. Do
do
not ever do that.
1,000 milligrams right off the bat. Let me just say, I'm 25-year veteran in the cannabis arena.
Rookie.
And 1,000 milligram for me would be probably a lot. That would be at the high end.
Snoop Dogg could do it.
I mean,
No, I could do it.
so on the
point is-
recreational end of
could do
stuff,
it.
they
I'm
say
not going to
100
Disneyland
milligrams
on it.
is the max you could have. So that's a good example. They break it down into like 10 milligram doses.
Right.
So
Much.
think about that. This is like 100 times a normal dose for most people.
Yeah, and we'll talk about microdosing too, because I mean, I
We'll
think
get into
that's
that, yeah.
we'll get into that later. But the point is, like, let's say you're thinking, what is the right dose for me, and how do I get to that to find out what it is? You look at the denomination of the product that you're buying. Let's just say it has 25 milligrams in the whole marshmallow or the whole brownie or whatever it is that you buy. Start slow. Just take a bite of it and wait an hour, maybe two. Some people, it takes a long time, especially if
It
you
depends on the person's
yeah,
metabolism.
if you already had a big meal before you took a bite out of this brownie, or was it on an empty stomach? There's a lot of factors involved with figuring it out. But if you want to really figure it out, it's probably going to take 2, 3, 4 times to hash it out and to really understand how it works for you. But start small and work your way up. I think microdosing is a good way to start, but 10 milligrams, you're probably going to be okay. 10 milligrams for you and I, let's say, is probably, we're not going to feel it that much, I don't think. 25 milligrams you probably would start to feel it. I'm really rolling in about 100 or more, and I'm well experienced and have a high tolerance. So again, that's the point we're trying to make.
Line me
If
up
I have
5,000 milligrams,
Get
boys.
the fuck out
I'm
of
riding
here.
a crazy
This is so
train.
bullshit.
That's
mean,
great. Grandma's
I'll
boy.
actually try that.
I'm gonna get some of that Frankenstein and some of that.
That deer
You're
shit.
wasting
Grandma's
it at
house,
that point.
grandma's
You're
house.
wasting it at that point. You're just gonna fall asleep, and then the rest of it, you're gonna crap it out. Seriously, like, anyways, we want to educate people to a certain degree, and
Shh, put your
it's
phone
my
on
mom.
silent. Uh-oh.
Hold on, let me answer it. It's because of my mom.
All right, answer it. We'll just stand by here. Guillermo takes a call in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah.
Chris and RJ stand by for the verdict.
Gotta walk away.
It's an important call. He's stepping outside with a serious look on his face. This week on Cannabis Justice. We're back from the break. Hey. And we were talking about edibles and why they are. See, this is why you don't give him attention. You created a beast now. For those of you listening, I have a puppy
He knows.
He's about 14 months old now, but part Australian Shepherd, part Black Lab, and he is just all paws still, and he's now trying to crawl into Guillermo's lap.
He's just a baby. He's a beautiful baby. All right, now let me get back to my show.
Oh, and there goes the phone. And there goes the drink. Oh, no, chaos ensues.
That's what dogs do, don't they?
Podcasting is a rough racket.
Shit.
Good one.
So
Great. So
that's half a White Claw, one iPhone, a pair of headphones.
jeez. He won't even drink it.
Yeah, even a dog won't even drink that nasty water.
Dude, I'm
And you were trying to compare the up. There he goes. Damn it.
No, don't drink the White Claw. All right. Yeah. So I think we're way off track here.
yeah.
Let's tackle the last bit of business.
What's the business, man?
All right. So when this quarantine is lifted and we can actually once again move about the country or the world, where cannabis related only. What is a cannabis related destination that you want to get to?
I mean, if I ever could go, it would be Amsterdam, but
Dude, Barcelona.
Spain.
Oh hell yeah, families there.
Yeah. See,
Barcelona is popping.
yeah, actually, with all of the new laws and the way that things have changed
Yeah,
over there,
I would go there.
it's a good place.
What's up with Barcelona?
Well, so if we're talking about the city, you mean, or you
I
want?
don't know why is that
Okay,
your
well,
number
why would
one?
you go there? Okay, well, it's not just for the cannabis clubs. Which back in the day you'd have to be invited by somebody. You'd have to know somebody, and then they would let you go in, and then you could pay to have a membership. And once you became a member, then you could actually purchase something there, and then you'd smoke it on site. And people would just chill and have their bottle of wine, or listen to music, spin, all kinds of stuff, play board games, and just kind of hang out at these like essentially social clubs. Really, really cool. But Barcelona has beaches. It has great architecture. The food's great. They also have the plaza, or not the plaza, the street. Uh, I can't remember the damn name. It's horrible, horrible. But anyways, it's this main street, and there was actually a sad thing happened where a guy with a van drove down the street and ran over some people and stuff. But anyways, there's these shops, and they sell seeds to flowers and foods, and it's kind of like a big open farmers market down this whole street. Um, is it Plaza Mayor? No, Calle Mayor. Anyways, but Barcelona has a lot of artwork, and it just there's even a hemp museum there, um, which is it's very small, but it's kind of neat to see some of the displays. So it has incredible parks, gold laden statues, tons of history. You go down these streets, and it's like walking back in time into medieval times with these big, huge doors
Can you
and
smoke
big
in the open
metal.
out there now?
There was nobody really smoking freely, but there was also not really too much enforcement. I mean, remember when I had that conversation with
Rod Hudson,
Russ Hudson,
Rudd Hudson,
and we were walking through the plaza, and
80% right.
I was kind of a little scared, so I like had put it in my shoe, and we were walking, and it was just like, damn, this thing's cutting into my foot and my shoe. But he was like, dude, no, don't worry about it. And I waited till we got back to the hotel, and I smoked out the window, and no one said anything.
Well, we're gonna have to
It's
get
different
the
now. Now it's like way more prevalent, and it's a lot more relaxed. The social clubs still exist. They're just much more volume. You can even search it on Weed
your
Maps.
family's in the game over there, aren't they? Like your aunt or something, or
So my uncle, who it partakes in it, he met his current girlfriend right now, and Maria, and she owns on the Canary Islands a dispensary social club, and it's pretty popular there on the island, and she's been doing it for quite a long time. Very smart lady, and her whole family have gotten into it from the more on the wholesale and sale retail side of it, versus the cultivation. She has a lot of growers who come to her to distribute, and look, it's interesting. It's all outdoor, for the most part. Indoor is pretty expensive. A lot of more like in Madrid and Barcelona, for example. There's a lot more indoor grown stuff, but out in the Canary Islands, there's a lot of outdoor. And throughout the country, there's a lot of outdoor, and you'll notice that when you get it. But really, tasty buds, potent, great atmosphere, cool place to visit for more than just getting high. I mean, you can get high and go walk through. There's this cemetery that's on the side of a mountain, and you can see all these grave headstones, just like covering this mountain. It's pretty dope.
Actually, my buddy went to you want to go to Vegas, really?
Vegas.
Vegas.
You just
Ve-
smoke in
is-
the open. You just walk down the street.
I mean, that's actually what I was gonna say. My buddy went to Amsterdam last year, and he was saying it's like, even though you're not legally allowed to smoke out in the open, the like cops don't care. He's like, was walking around smoking a joint, and cops walked right by, and they kind of looked over and just kept walking. Didn't really
Right.
care. And then there's like the whole situation though with the cafes, still, and how the laws there are, it's kind of funny because people think it's like all legal, but it's not necessarily legal. They just turn a blind
Sure.
eye to it.
Sure. Well, I mean, it was pretty.
Why Vegas, dude? Why Vegas?
Why?
why
Why?
Vegas?
With the look? Why not Vegas?
It's not a very weed-esque town.
Actually, it's
Well, it
become a
is.
lot
Yeah,
more
it is now.
Well, they just turned it in. Well, Vegas. They Vegasized
they
it.
cashed in on that.
They Vegasized it.
No, okay, so I love Vegas, right? Like just to
You do love
begin
Vegas.
with, and ever since it went legal there, like it has honestly been one of the most pleasant. Like the acquisition experience is pleasant, the consumption experience is pleasant. They've got pretty decent stuff out there. You're usually in a decent mindset when you're out there, so like it's just. I don't know.
Decent
it's fun.
mindset. You're like fucked up on some alcohol because you were gambling 5-cent slots in one
How
spot,
dare you,
and then
sir?
you stuffed
do
your
not play slot
face
machines.
with a shovel.
See, this is
at
the
a
different
buffet,
lifestyle some
and-
people live. Obviously, Guillermo lives a different lifestyle than us.
Oh my God.
Look, even technically,
He wants to go for the debauchery. We're just
technically
here
you're
for
not
the
supposed
weed.
to smoke in the rooms. You know what I'm saying? But like they have smoking rooms, and I think if you tip your housekeeper or you tip the housekeeping staff when you check out enough, nobody's
Just a
going to
tip.
turn you in. You know what I mean? Take a can of
Right.
Febreze. You can get a can of Febreze at the Walgreens. It's right down at the end of the strip there. You get a 2-pack for like $10. It'll set you for
Well,
a
you
whole
could
weekend.
vape in a room, I think, but you can't
I ain't
smoke
talking
in a room.
vape. Yeah.
Actually, if you dab, see, it's a
Oh,
lot
in the
different than
bathroom, right.
flour.
No,
It
no,
doesn't
okay.
stick as much.
The
so.
best hotel experience I've had so far that's 420 friendly would be the Hard Rock in San Diego. Right across from the
Really?
convention center. The hotel is like 100% 420 friendly.
Hmm.
The smoke in the rooms, they've got they've got little like balconies on the rooms and stuff like that. You can go out and smoke in those. But even the bartender, because I was asking him, was like, "Hey, we're gonna like light up here," and he just laughed at me. He's like, "Wherever you want." Like, this is the Hard Rock. We're totally cool with it.
So, like, Colorado has those like bed and breakfasts that are like
Yeah,
weed resort kind of like
Yeah,
What
and
do they
there's
call-
tours.
what do they call them, canications or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And there's canatourism where you go to indoor grows. You try different grower houses, just like winery tours. Same thing. That's agritourism. You see how the operation goes, and you try some of their stuff, and then you go to the next place, and you're in a nice little van or an air conditioned bus or whatever.
Well, we talked about doing that up at
Mm-hmm.
the Emerald Triangle up there.
Another cool place if you are in SoCal, if you want to go to a weed friendly place, it would be Palm Springs area.
Oh yeah, actually.
Depending on the time of year when it's not like you're on the surface of Mercury, I would say it would be cool. In Palm Desert, there's a couple of hot springs, where natural hot springs, right? And so there's some therapeutics there, and then you can stay in a hotel that usually will allow it on site or allow consumption on site, and maybe even has products to purchase. But in Palm Desert would be a cool place, and there's an airport there too, small airport. So if you know how to fly, you can fly in and fly out. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, just dust off the old pilot's license, pull out the Cessna.
Right?
Yeah,
Why not?
Bucket list.
All right.
All right. I think that does it for episode 3 of the Contact Buzz Special Into the World edition, coming at you from the secret underground bunker, where we definitely have all the strains on lockdown. Don't worry, the cannabis plant will survive the zombie apocalypse.
Is it zombie? By the way, stay healthy, stay home.
Stay healthy, stay home, stay high.
Always stay high.